They called me just the janitor, until I sat down at the broken piano they mocked. Then, the whole room fell silent, especially the rich PTA mom who'd just bet $20,000 I couldn't play a single note. The fluorescent lights buzzed like angry hornets over the gymnasium of Southridge High, their flicker casting long shadows over the half-deflated basketballs and peeling posters of past champions. The air smelled of lemon disinfectant and the cheap cologne of rich people trying too hard. Darius Carter kept his head down, pushing his mop in slow, practiced arcs across the floor. The squeak of his rubber soles against the tiles was the only sound he allowed himself to make. Around him, the school's annual fundraiser hummed with laughter and clinking glasses. PTA moms in designer blazers, dads checking stock prices on their phones, students pretending not to be bored. Invisible. That's how he liked it. Until Lydia Whitford opened her mouth. The dare. "Look at this," Lydia's voice cut through the chatter like a knife. She stood near the old upright piano in the corner, the one with chipped keys and a sticky middle C no one ever fixed. Her manicured finger tapped the dusty lid. "They cut the music program but left this thing here. Might as well burn it." A few parents chuckled. Darius's grip tightened on the mop handle. Then Lydia's gaze landed on him. Oh, perfect. Her smile was all teeth. "Darius, right? You clean this dump every night. Bet you've heard this piano more than anyone." She turned to the crowd, wine glass raised like she was about to toast. "Tell you what, if you can play something better than chopsticks, I'll donate 20 grand to the Arts Fund. Hell, I'll even throw in a janitor scholarship for you." The room erupted in laughter. Someone snorted into their champagne. Darius felt his pulse in his throat. His mother's voice whispered in his head, "Mop floors if you have to, but never let them mop the floor with you." He forced his voice steady. "Name's Darius Carter, ma'am, not hey you." Lydia blinked, then smirked. "Ooh, touchy. Fine. Darius, play us a tune. Or are those hands only good for scrubbing toilets?" The gym fell silent. Even the kids stopped sneaking candy from the buffet. Darius looked at the piano. The last time he'd touched one, he was 19, wearing a borrowed suit for a Juilliard audition he never finished. The last time he'd played, it was a lullaby for his mother in a hospital room, her IV drip keeping time like a metronome. He exhaled. "Ain't here to perform, Miss Whitford." Lydia rolled her eyes. "Of course not." She turned away, waving a hand. "Just keep mopping, buddy." But as Darius bent back to his work, he caught the glare of a phone screen. Lydia's daughter, Emily, filming the whole thing, her smirk identical to her mother's. The video caption flashed in his mind before she even typed it. "Watch our janitor fail, LOL." His sneakers squeaked against the floor again, invisible but not for long. The janitor's closet smelled of bleach and regret as I slumped against the mop bucket, replaying Lydia Whitford's words in my head. "Play us a tune, or are those hands only good for scrubbing toilets?" My fingers twitched against my thighs, tracing invisible scales. 10 years since I'd last played properly. 10 years of swallowing my pride with cafeteria leftovers. That night, after the last BMW pulled out of the faculty lot, I dragged a chair to the derelict piano. Moonlight bled through cracked windows as I lifted the fallboard. 3 keys were missing entirely. The F hash looked like it had been chewed by rats. I pressed middle C. The note hung in the air like a ghost. My hands remembered before my brain did. First just scales, stiff and halting. Then fragments of Chopin's Revolutionary Etude, the piece I'd played for my Juilliard audition before the phone call came about Mommy's stroke. The wrong notes should have hurt, but my blood was singing. A sound made me freeze. Miss Laurent stood in the doorway, her Haitian Creole accent warm as rum. "Mon Dieu, you play like a man who's danced with the devil." She tossed me a key. The auditorium grand locked since budget cuts. Ale, real piano deserves real hands. For the first time in a decade, I felt my fingers itch for more than a mop handle. The auditorium door creaked like a coffin lid when I pushed it open. Moonlight striped the Steinway Grand, the one they rolled out for visiting politicians then locked away like Fort Knox. My throat went dry. 10 years. 10 years of hospital vigils and eviction notices, and this fucking piano probably got tuned more often than I got new work boots. I sat. The bench groaned under me. First note, ebb minor, from the nocturne mommy used to hum while making café con leche. My left hand cramped immediately. The right kept slipping, fingers too calloused to feel the ivory properly. I played like a drunk stumbling through a waltz. Then my phone buzzed. Emily Whitford's tick-tock smirk filled the screen. LOL, watch our janitor fail at piano challenge. The video showed me mopping, Lydia's voice crystal clear. If you can play that broken piano, I'll fund the music program myself. Comments scrolled. Bro really thinks he's Lang Lang. Ayo, someone get this man a raise. For comedy. Why do janitors always think they're talented? The screen cracked before I realized I'd clenched my fist. Miss Laurent found me elbow deep in trash bags, breathing like I'd run a marathon. She didn't ask, just handed me a flask that burned all the way down. Petit, in my country we say, the axe forgets, but the tree remembers. I looked at my hands, scars from broken glass, knuckles swollen from winter pipes. Then at the auditorium door. That night, I played until my shirt stuck to my back, until the wrong notes became right, until Chopin's ghost stopped laughing. The day of the PTA meeting arrived with a thunderstorm. Rain lashed the school windows as I pushed my cart past the auditorium, where parents milled with wine glasses. Lydia Whitford's laugh cut through the chatter like a diamond saw. Then I saw it. Someone had wheeled the broken upright onto the makeshift stage. A sticky note on the keys read, "For our maestro, tune yourself." Laughter rippled through the crowd. Emily stood filming near the fire exit, her phone aimed like a sniper scope. Something inside me snapped. I dropped my mop. The clatter turned heads. "Mr. Carter?" Principal Nguyen's voice held a warning. The room got very quiet as I walked to the piano. Lydia's smirk faltered when I didn't hesitate. Then I played. Not the stumble-through Chopin from practice, not the safe, easy pieces. I hammered into Rachmaninoff's prelude in C-sharp minor like it was a boxing match. The broken keys wailed. The missing F hash didn't matter. My left hand covered the gap like it was born to. Halfway through, the room stopped breathing. Mrs. Rodriguez from the cafeteria crossed herself. A sophomore dropped his phone in the aisle. And Lydia Whitford. Her champagne flute hit the floor with a crystal shatter. The last chord shook dust from the ceiling lights. Silence. Then, holy shit. The words came from Mr. Avery, the math teacher who'd called me buddy for 3 years. That's Darius Carter. He played with the Chicago Symphony's youth orchestra. The Tribune called him the most promising classical talent since Andre Watts, finished a gray-haired man in the front row, David Chen, the classical critic for the Sun-Times. Lydia's face went the color of spoiled milk. I stood, knees shaking. "Name's Darius Carter," I said to the room. "Not buddy, not maestro." And definitely, I locked eyes with Lydia, not just the janitor. Emily's phone was still recording. For once, I hoped it got every second. The video went viral before I'd even finished mopping up Lydia's spilled champagne. By third period the next morning, #janitor vs PTA was trending in Chicago. The Sun-Times headline, "Custodians Chopin Stuns Elite School." My old Juilliard professor had DM'd me. "We still have your audition tape." But it was the kids who wrecked me. A line formed at my janitor closet, not to mock but to ask, "Mr. Carter, can you teach me that left-hand part?" Yo, my abuela cried when she saw your video. They really cut music class but pay you $15 an hour. Lydia? She'd fallen ill, according to school emails. But her Mercedes stayed parked in the admin lot all day, curtains drawn. Then came the note slipped under my supply closet door. Darius, the board is voting tonight on reinstating music. Your performance forced their hand. Meet me at the piano, 6 p.m. ELC. Lydia's initials looked like they'd been carved into the paper. Miss Laurent caught me reading it. Careful, Petit. Rich people don't apologize. They repackage. But when I pushed open the auditorium door at 6, it wasn't just Lydia waiting. The whole school board stood by the Steinway. And on the bench, a contract. Music director, Darius Carter. Salary, $72,000 benefits. Full medical dental start date. Tomorrow, Lydia's smile didn't reach her eyes. We're reallocating funds. I almost laughed. They'd rather make me faculty than admit they were wrong. Then I saw the second page. Conditions. Public statement supporting PTA leadership. No discussion of the incident with media evening custodial duties retained. Miss Laurent's voice echoed in my head. Repackaging. I picked up the pen, then flipped to the last page and wrote, counteroffer. $85K salary. Hire Miss Laurent as assistant free lessons for low-income students, or I take the Sun-Times interview tomorrow. Asterisk. The board president's face purpled. Lydia's manicure tapped her champagne flute like a metronome gone wild. Outside, thunder rumbled. Same storm, new lightning. The school board's silence lasted exactly 37 hours. I know because I timed it on the industrial clock above my mop sink, watching the minute hand crawl while my phone blew up with 8 missed calls from the superintendent, 12 texts from Lydia's assistant. Miss Whitford prefers to resolve this privately. 1 voicemail from David Chen at the Sun-Times. Tell me about the custodial duties clause. Miss Laurent stirred her café au lait with a screwdriver. Petite. When the lion shows you its teeth, it's not smiling. The bomb dropped at 10:17 a.m. Principal Nguyen called me in, not to her office but to room 214, where my mother used to teach ESL before the cancer. Now it stank of Starbucks and desperation. The board president slid a new contract across Mom's old desk. $78K. No custodial work. No mention of Miss Laurent. Lydia leaned against the chalkboard, arms crossed. This is more than fair, Darius. My name sounded like a threat. I almost folded. Then I noticed the fresh white paint covering Mom's old lesson plans, still etched in the wall's grooves. The board had buried her handwriting like they'd buried her legacy. I pulled out my phone and played the audio. We're reallocating funds. Lydia's voice, tinny but clear. Evening custodial duties retained. The room went arctic. You recorded? No, I said. Your daughter did. For her Janitor Fails TikTok series. Funny how the mic picked up your backroom deal. David Chen's article dropped at noon. By dismissal, 3 things happened. #Fire Lydia trended statewide. The board approved $82K plus assistant position. A 9th grader named Mateo slipped me a napkin with musical notes. His first composition, Lydia resigned via email at 4:47 p.m. Miss Laurent handed me a new key to room 214. Your maman's classroom, she said. The paint scraped off easy. Underneath, Mom's Spanish verb conjugation still shone. The keys to room 214 felt heavier than my mop bucket ever had. I stood in the doorway, sunlight cutting through years of dust motes, illuminating the ghosts. Mommy's dried-up expo markers in the tray, faded construction paper flowers still taped to the filing cabinet, the indent on the floor where her desk had been before they moved in a smart board that never worked. Miss Laurent nudged me forward. Breathe, Petit. Spirits don't bite. I set my new lesson plan book on the radiator, right where Mommy used to keep her cafecito thermos. The first student arrived early. Mateo Rivera, 14, hoodie sleeves stretched over nervous hands. You really gonna teach me? For real? His composition, scrawled on that napkin, was all minor key teenage angst with a bridge that sounded like a bandoneon weeping. Exactly how I'd written at his age. First lesson, I said, pulling out the Casio keyboard the district had generously donated. Play me something you love, not what you think I want to hear. He hesitated. Then his fingers found the opening riff of La Bamba, but slowed down, mournful, like a lullaby. Veracruz style, I murmured. Your abuelo teach you that? His head snapped up. How'd you? Because my mom played it the same way. I pointed to the faint music notes Mommy had once drawn along the chalkboard's edge, now half erased under district-mandated posters about standardized excellence. The door burst open. Emily Whitford stood there, designer backpack dangling like a noose. Her usual smirk was gone. I brought the attendance sheet. A lie. The sheet trembled in her hand. Mateo rolled his eyes. Ain't you supposed to be at your new private school? I almost laughed. Lydia had pulled her out. Too late. Emily's gaze fixed on the Casio, on Mateo's hands, on the chalkboard ghosts. Play something, she blurted. The room froze. Mateo cracked first. Oh, now you want to hear? I silenced him with a look. Nodded to the bench. Emily sat like the piano might electrocute her. Played 3 halting notes of Twinkle Twinkle. A choked sound escaped her. I knew that sound. The same one I'd made at 19 when the Juilliard letter came 3 days after the funeral. Miss Laurent appeared in the doorway with 2 coffees, took one look at Emily's shaking shoulders and muttered, Ah, merde. She set the extra cup in front of Lydia's daughter. Black, no sugar. Just how Mommy used to drink it. The next Monday, Emily Whitford showed up again. No excuse this time. Just lurked by the door while Mateo butchered Fiorelise, his fingers tripping over the arpeggios. When the bell rang, she dropped a crumpled sheet on the piano, Mozart's Sonata No. 16, the same piece Lydia had bragged about her daughter mastering at last year's gala. Play it with me, she demanded. Mateo snorted. Ain't you got some rich kid tutor for that? Emily's cheeks flushed. They all suck. I studied the sheet music. The notes were correct, but someone, probably Lydia, had scribbled in slower and softer in angry red pen at every dynamic passage. I pushed the paper back. Now, play it how you hear it. Emily's hands hovered. Then she attacked the keys, not with Lydia's precious restraint, but with the same fury I'd once channeled into Rachmaninoff. Wrong notes? Plenty. But the rage was perfect. Mateo whistled. Damn, Princessa, you've been holding out. For the first time, Emily Whitford grinned. Lydia found out at Thanksgiving dinner. Emily told me later how it went down. You're playing with the janitor. Lydia's voice cracking on the word like an egg. He's a Juilliard-level pianist, Mom. Who mops floors? So, Emily shot back. At least he doesn't make me play like a robot. The final blow? Besides, he's helping me with my Berkeley audition. The next morning, Lydia stormed into room 214 during third period. Silence. Not the tense kind. The kind that comes when 20 teenagers stop mid-note to stare at the woman who'd tried to erase this program. Mateo broke it. Aye, Mrs. Whitford, you here to audition? Lydia's gaze locked onto the Casio, where Emily's hands were tangled with Mateo's, teaching him a jazzy riff over Claire de Lune. Miss Laurent stepped forward with her ever-present thermos. Coffee? No sugar. Lydia Whitford turned and walked out. But not before we all saw it, the crack in her perfect veneer. Lydia Whitford didn't come to the winter showcase, but her signature was on the check that paid for the new Steinway in the auditorium. Restricted donation, the note read, for advanced students only. Emily crumpled it in front of the whole class. Bitch. The room gasped. No one had ever heard perfect Emily Whitford curse. Mateo grinned as he flipped open the fall board. 8 Princessa. Show me how advanced you really are. What happened next? Magic. Emily played the first movement of Moonlight Sonata, not the careful, metronome-perfect version Lydia demanded, but stormy and unpredictable, like Lake Michigan in November. Mateo layered in improvised jazz chords that made Beethoven sound like he'd written for a South Side speakeasy. And me? I played the harmonies Mommy used to hum while grading papers. When we finished, the silence lasted 3 whole breaths. Then, crashing applause. Even from the back row, where a figure in a Burberry trench coat slipped out the fire exit. We all saw. We all pretended not to. That night, I found a manila envelope taped to my locker. Inside, a handwritten apology, Lydia's shaky script. A photo of Mommy teaching ESL in room 214 and 1 final check. No restrictions this time. Miss Laurence sipped her café au lait. Told you spirits don't bite. I framed the photo, hung it right above the piano. The letter from Juilliard arrived on a Tuesday. Dear Mr. Carter, we are pleased to offer you a position as artist in residence. I stared at the words until they blurred. 23 years late. Miss Laurence slapped the counter. Sacré bleu! You gonna cry or celebrate? Outside, spring rain tapped against room 214's windows. Inside, Mateo was butchering Claire de Lune while Emily shouted corrections. I folded the letter. Tell Berkeley to expect 2 headache applicants next fall, I said, nodding to the kids. Miss Laurent cackled. That's my boy. Graduation day smelled like cheap polyester and hope. I sat with faculty, Mr. Carter, music director on my program, as Mateo walked the stage. His cap was crooked, his gown covered in Sharpie signatures. The principal cleared her throat. And our class of 2024 Arts Scholarship recipient. Lydia Whitford stood in the back, sunglasses hiding swollen eyes. Mateo Rivera! The crowd erupted. Mateo grabbed the mic. Shout out to Mr. Carter. You the only reason I passed algebra. Later, I found Lydia by the memorial garden. She didn't apologize again, just handed me a USB drive. Emily's audition tape. She won't let me listen. The label read, For Darius, play it loud. That night, alone in the auditorium, I pressed play. Emily's arrangement of La Campanella fused with Mateo's jazz riffs and the Veracruz folk melody I'd taught them. At the 2:37 mark, a ghost note surfaced. Mommy's humming, lifted from an old home video Lydia must have saved all these years. I let the last note fade. Outside, cicadas sang. Somewhere, a janitor's keys jingled. I placed the Juilliard letter on the piano bench, picked up my keys, and went home. At its heart, the Custodian's Sonata is a testament to the quiet power of dignity, the kind that persists even when the world tries to mop you into a corner. Darius's journey reminds us that injustice thrives in silence, but breaking that silence doesn't always require a shout. Sometimes, it's the unflinching grace of a single note played boldly enough to make the room reconsider everything it thought it knew. Prejudice, whether wrapped in a PTA president's smirk or systemic neglect, loses its grip when met with undeniable truth. You cannot erase a person's worth by refusing to see it. The story also reveals a harder truth, that growth often comes not from the villain's remorse, but from our choice to outgrow their limitations. Lydia's half-hearted apologies and Emily's rebellion show that change is messy, but redemption is possible when we leave space for it, without centering it. For anyone who's ever been underestimated, this is your reminder. Your talent doesn't expire because someone else ignored it. And for those who've wielded privilege without thought, there's always time to listen, really listen, to the voices you've tuned out. If this story resonated with you, share your thoughts below. Have you ever faced a moment that demanded you prove your worth? Hit like to honor the quiet fighters in your life, and subscribe for more stories that turn struggle into strength. May you always find the courage to play your sonata, even if the world insists you stick to mopping. And when the final note fades, may you leave a silence that speaks louder than their laughter ever did.